Welcome back to Real Estate Today, brought to you by Century 21 Affiliated on Madison 1670 WTDY. And Bill Kessler here with Dan Cruz, talking about a whole bunch of stuff. We spent the first half of this morning talking mostly about the opportunities of the quote-unquote move-up buyer, someone who has a home to sell that maybe wants a better home for the family. And now we're going to talk a little bit about what really is this foreclosure market, the REO market, the short sale market. It's been around for 3 years, so we all think we know it, and maybe we do. So, Dan, what is a foreclosure?
Foreclosure, or referred to in our marketplace a lot or by our professionals as a real estate owned or REO property. And this has been a property that seller has defaulted on their payments. The bank has actually taken the property back from that seller, and now the bank owns it, and the bank is now marketing and selling it.
So a foreclosed sale, the bank actually owns the property when it's foreclosed.
Absolutely, which is different than a short sale. And a short sale would be a scenario where the seller actually still technically owns the property, is living in the property, but basically is kind of, let's call it a pre-foreclosure scenario. They either have defaulted on their property, or they feel they're in a situation that they can no longer live in that current situation. But they are still selling it as a seller, and then there's a short on what they actually can bring to the table to sell it for, and what they're going to get as an accepted offer and close for.
Right. So a short sale is where the monies expected from the sale are short of the monies needed to clear title cleanly.
Yes.
So,
And in that scenario, there's really two parties involved on the selling end. There's going to be the sellers who are involved, and the financial institution or the bank that is going to be involved, because they have to prove that short amount we're talking about.
right. And often when you get into what we call a short sale, there's more than one bank or financial institution involved, because often the homeowner has used their former equity in the home to live on it or buy a boat or whatever they did.
So we often see it as they took out a first mortgage for the property and a second mortgage, let's say sometimes to fix up the property, but maybe they did. They bought a car, they bought a house, or they bought a boat, whatever it might be. Now they have two mortgages on it. You're negotiating with the seller and a first mortgage and a second mortgage.
And often they haven't paid their taxes.
Could be.
Real estate taxes, or their IRS taxes, or their state of Wisconsin taxes.
Well, when you get into that default situation, which is a slippery slope, and you start missing payments, usually there's multiple things you're missing on.
It becomes a mudslide, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the issue is that in a foreclosed property often is easier to deal with than a short sale, because in a foreclosed property, it's already gone to sheriff's sale, and the bank has been the high bidder and gotten the property, or the seller has signed the deed over to the bank, and the bank has negotiated with the second, third, fourth lien holders and all that stuff, got all clear. So in other words, it's clear title.
Clear title, and usually one person you're dealing with. You're dealing with one institution. Now that might be a third-party bank or asset manager out in Arizona, but still it's one party you're having to deal with opposed to multiple entities.
Right. So let's talk about that one first. Once the property is foreclosed, then the foreclosed company, be it Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or Chase or whomever it is, then has already pre-selected a real estate agent to be the listing agent. We're fortunate enough in this area with Century 21 to have the HUD, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Chase, many other of the listings, because we got into this game early. And so anyway, the listing is there. The person dealing with it, the other end, the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Chase person, is an employee who often is, no, not always, is paid a little bit of a spiff to get the property moved. So their goal is to get it looking okay, the major defects taken care of, priced right, but they're not going to dink around.
No, they want to get these properties moved. They understand pricing's the name of the game, especially in many of these where there is work to be done on them, even if it's minor work. They're saying we're going to price it right, because quite frankly, the bank or the financial institution does not want to carry those costs any longer. They want to move this property as quick as possible.
Right. So almost always not always, but almost always, when a property is put on as a foreclosure, it's priced to sell in the next 14 days. So they're not looking to negotiate. They're not looking for, the home was assessed at $250 and they put it on for $180. They're not looking for a $155 offer.
Well, and this is not the first rodeo for a lot of these asset managers.
Right.
I mean, the counsel we deal with on a regular basis, I mean, they're going to have 50 files on their desk, all very similar situations, and they know what works and what doesn't work when it comes down to pricing.
So you're dealing with a seasoned professional who is not emotionally attached to the outcome as the homeowner is.
It's a huge point, Bill, because the game of negotiations before was, okay, you have a seller who's selling the property, they're emotionally involved, there's different ways of looking at that negotiation opposed to now. This is a bank who owns it. They maybe are in Arizona, never seen the property. It is a number on their balance sheet. So the negotiation tactics are totally different dealing with a bank in a foreclosure.
And they don't necessarily care how long you give them to accept an offer. They don't necessarily care that you want an inspection. They certainly aren't going to accept anything subject to sale. And they might not, they are very reluctant to accept anything that is subject to any sort of major financing, whatever.
I would say, without a doubt, the two biggest things when you're a buyer purchasing a foreclosed property to keep in mind is one, flexibility. And flexibility primarily in timing. Because when you submit this offer, it's going to go through the agent involved with it and then to this asset manager. And quite frankly, we are on the timetables of the asset manager at that particular point. And more times than not, the issues I hear from other agents or consumers out there is they're concerned about what's going on with the offer, or I haven't heard back, or this, that, and the other. And quite frankly, we're at the mercy of the asset manager, and they can deal with whatever time frame they want to deal with.
It can be a very frustrating process. What gets to the bottom line is that more than ever, you need somebody who knows what the heck they're doing to lead you through it.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things we really try to educate our people about, to educate the general public out there is, how does this process work? In fact, we came up with about a 3-page document that explains this entire process so they understand what are they getting into, what should I expect on the time frame of it, and be okay. Be okay that, hey, I haven't heard back right away in that 48-hour time frame, because quite frankly, you're probably not going to hear back that quick.
Yeah, nice that you wanted that, but get over it.
Exactly.
All right, so that's the foreclosure in a nutshell. We'll talk about that more in future shows, but in a nutshell. Now, the foreclosure is a piece of cake compared to a short sale. Because a short sale, you got all players still negotiating and gyrating for position with each other relative to whatever dollars are going to come out of this thing.
Well, absolutely, and the seller's still involved in the process of the short sale. So you probably are going to be getting an accepted offer with the seller saying, I'm willing to sell it for this particular price. But quite frankly, that doesn't really mean anything, because you still now need to go to the bank, and the bank's got to say, oh, I also agree to what
Right.
Mr. Seller wants to sell.
So does General Finance, and so does the IRS office, and so does the plumber who has the lien on the property.
Absolutely.
So it is a total clustered mess. And if you're not dealing with someone who's been through it before, and as Dan pointed out a few minutes ago in the foreclosure, if you're not extremely patient, don't bother.
Absolutely, and I said one of two things. The first one, flexibility. I think the second one, both dealing with short sales and with foreclosures, is having it as contingency free as possible, because these institutions don't want to deal with, it's not that they don't want to, they will not deal with inspection contingencies, this, that, and the other. They want to just get this thing moved. They don't care. Price is kind of secondary even in some of this to all the other contingency factors.
We had earlier this year one property that had 26 offers on it, and they actually took, and they ranged from 155 to 184.
Mm-hmm.
They actually took one in the 150s because it was cash with a flexible closing date, as opposed to the 184 one, which was subject to inspection, finance, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's a done deal. It was a solid deal. That's what they want to see.
Yeah, so price isn't totally they want a clean deal.
Mm-hmm.
So the short sales, if you have the patience to, if it's a home you really, really, really want, and you have the patience to close here in October or November or December because you're not sure when it's going to close, and you have that flexibility, and you got your ducks lined up as far as financing, and you're willing to even be a little bit flexible on the price because you and the seller can agree to 180,
Mm-hmm.
but the lenders may not. You may end up having to pay 186.
Right.
And if that's okay, then by all means go ahead, because 186 probably still a heck of a deal off the 240 property.
Right. I would say the biggest frustrating part that I see is uneducated buyers, and not, I mean, it's not really totally their fault, but uneducated buyers who don't understand the short sale or foreclosure process. Many times, first-time home buyers saying, "This is a great deal. I'm going to try to get this on this foreclosure," but they don't understand the process of it, and then it becomes really frustrating to them of why is this not happening the way I anticipated?
One thing get angry at everybody, get angry at us, get angry at the banks, whatever, and it's because they know, quote unquote, that it's a buyer's market. Well, if it's a buyer's market, then I'm king, I'm queen, I rule.
Absolutely.
Well, you do, except for the process.
Exactly, which you need to let go of. You got to be okay letting go of that.
Right, so allow those in charge of the process, i.e. the paper pushers at the banks and the wherever, to deal with it. And as Dan pointed out, you also have you still have the emotional overlay of the seller involved in there too sometimes. Oh, I really don't want to get, whatever, my house or whatever it is, trying to save the last minute. There's a lot of stuff going on, and if a person really needs not only a realtor, but a realtor that knows what the heck they're doing when it comes to dealing with a short sale. One, to help you through the emotional morass of it all, and two, to know when to, Kenny Rogers, hold them, the one with the fold them in terms of giving in to the lenders or not giving the lenders. Some things you can work with, some things you can't.
Well, I would say that education process alone is one of the biggest things that is difficult to find out online. You can search, you can do all your research online, but understanding that process, you really do need to sit down and talk to somebody.
Right. You need, it's far beyond checking some boxes and saying this and that.
Right.
It's because you need to know which asset manager you're talking about with which company, and their position changes daily with the earnings reports of their company.
Absolutely. We know in the last 6 months have seen these asset managers and these companies, the change that they've even had on how they respond to our offers. We've been doing this a long time. You need to have somebody who understands that process.
Right. Well, thank you again for being with us this morning, Dan and Bill.
It's been great. Just remind everybody out there, check us out on our website, www.century21affiliated.com. We live stream all of our video blogs of the show on there, so go check us out, and you can see past ones on there as well.
Bill and Dan, Madison 1670, WTDY, Real Estate Today, brought to you by Century 21 Affiliated. Go Bears!
Go Pack!